The hammering on my garage door was so violent, it sounded like someone was trying to cave it in with pure rage. I set my coffee down carefully and headed toward the noise, already certain who was responsible. Through the small side window, I spotted Patricia Dalton, the HOA president, her face flushed crimson as she shouted about a stolen car. Standing just behind her was her son, Tyler, arms folded tightly across his chest, wearing that arrogant smirk I'd grown to loathe over the last 3 weeks. "Open this door right now," Patricia shrieked, her voice cutting through the metal like a blade. "I know you're hiding stolen property in there. The police are already on their way." That last sentence almost made me laugh. If she only understood how ironic that threat really was. I reached over, picked up my badge from the kitchen counter, clipped it to my belt, and calmly walked to the front door instead of the garage. When I opened it, the shock on her face as she saw me standing there, relaxed and unbothered, was nearly worth every ounce of harassment she put me through. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to rewind a bit. 3 weeks earlier, I had moved into Riverside Heights. I just earned a promotion to chief of police for the city, and after 2 decades of apartment living, I finally bought a house of my own. It wasn't extravagant, just a modest 3-bedroom place with the 2-car garage, but it was perfect for what mattered most to me. Inside that garage sat my pride and joy, a 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 in grabber blue. I had spent 5 years restoring that car alongside my father. Every bolt, every panel, every minor detail had been rebuilt with care. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was the last thing we worked on together before cancer took him. Since moving in, only driven it 3 times. Each outing drew admiring glances from neighbors as I passed. Most of them, anyway. Patricia Dalton lived 4 houses down with her 17-year-old son, Tyler. From the very first day, she made it obvious she ruled the neighborhood like it was her personal empire. Our initial meeting consisted of her handing me a thick 3-inch binder labeled HOA Rules and Expectations, then informing me my moving truck had overstayed its welcome by 2 minutes. "We maintain strict standards here in Riverside Heights," she said, her bleached blonde hair flawless despite the 90-degree heat. "I trust you'll be a cooperative addition to our community." I smiled politely, accepted the binder, and didn't mention my profession. I prefer keeping my work life separate from my personal life. And I certainly didn't want neighbors behaving differently because of my title. The real trouble began during my 2nd week. I was in the garage polishing the Mustang's chrome when Tyler wandered up my driveway like he owned the place. His expensive sneakers squeaked against the concrete as he approached. "Nice car," he said, casually dragging his hand across the fender without permission. "Boss 429, I replied, gently moving his hand away. "Just finished waxing that area." His eyes lit up with a look I recognized immediately, the kind that said he wasn't used to hearing no. "You should let me take it out sometime," he said. "I'm a great driver. Got my license last month." I nearly laughed. A 17-year-old with barely 4 weeks of experience behind the wheel of a 400 horsepower muscle car. Not a chance. "Sorry," I told him. "That car doesn't leave the garage unless I'm driving." His expression hardened instantly. "My dad pays a ton in HOA fees." "Like, a lot. That basically means he owns part of this street. So technically, I own part of everything on it." The logic was so absurd, I had to pause before responding. "That's not how property ownership works. We'll see," Tyler muttered before storming off. 20 minutes later, Patricia appeared at my front door. She changed into what I could only describe as her war uniform: pressed white pants, a blazer with an HOA pin, and heels that struck my porch like gunfire. "Mr. Morrison," she snapped, skipping introductions. "My son says you were extremely rude to him." "I told him he couldn't drive my car," I replied evenly. Her lips tightened. "Tyler is a responsible young man. When he takes an interest in something, it's neighborly to accommodate him. We're a community." "Ma'am," I said, "that car is a vintage muscle car worth more than most people make in a year. I don't let anyone drive it," she sniffed. "We'll see whether that vehicle even complies with HOA regulations. I'll be reviewing the bylaws tonight." And she did. Over the following week, Violation notices began appearing like clockwork. One claimed the car was excessively loud, even though I hadn't started it while she was nearby. Another complained the color was too bright and could distract drivers. My personal favorite accused the Mustang of being a commercial vehicle because it could potentially be used for racing. I responded calmly to every notice, citing the actual HOA bylaws that proved her claims were nonsense. Each response only seemed to fuel her anger. Things escalated the next Saturday when Tyler returned, this time with two friends. I was mowing the lawn when they walked up. "Hey, Mr. Morrison," Tyler called, his voice dripping with fake friendliness. "My boys were hoping you'd change your mind. Just one quick spin around the block." "No," I said flatly. "That hasn't changed." One of his friends, a bulky kid wearing a football jersey, stepped forward. "Relax, man. Don't be such a jerk. What's the harm?" "Enough," I said, my voice firm with 20 years of law enforcement behind it. "You all need to leave now." They walked away, but Tyler shot me a look that promised retaliation. An hour later, Patricia returned, this time dragging her husband Richard along. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. Patricia wasted no time. "You threatened my son and his friends," she screeched. "Richard is a lawyer. We could sue you for emotional distress." Richard flinched slightly but stayed quiet. I'd already looked him up. He was a tax attorney who likely hadn't set foot in a courtroom in years. "I asked them to leave my property," I said. "That's my right. We'll see what the HOA board thinks about this," Patricia snapped before marching off, Richard following with an apologetic shrug. Apparently, the next HOA meeting was a spectacle. I didn't attend, but my neighbor Janet filled me in later. Patricia spent 40 minutes ranting about the dangerous element that had infiltrated the neighborhood, complete with a PowerPoint on the dangers of street racing culture. She even used the word hooligan. Janet laughed as she told me. She said, "Your car attracts the wrong crowd." I pointed out that the only people harassing me were Patricia and Tyler. That didn't go over well. The harassment intensified. Notes appeared on my windshield. My trash cans were mysteriously knocked over on pickup days. Someone even reported my lawn for being half an inch too long. Then came the morning, when everything finally boiled over. It was a quiet Saturday, and I was sipping coffee in my kitchen when I heard voices outside. Looking through the window, I saw Tyler and his friends in my driveway again, taking selfies with my car through the garage window. I stepped outside. "Tyler, you need to leave now. It's just pictures, bro," he said casually. "For Instagram," Tyler said, lifting his phone. "My followers go crazy for sick cars like this." "Get off my property," warned. "I'm not going to repeat myself." Tyler's face turned red with anger. "You know what? Screw you. That car should be mine anyway. You're too old to even appreciate it. You probably can't drive it right." "Tyler," I said, my voice dropping into what my officers like to call my chief voice. "Leave now, or I will call the police." He laughed. "My mom already did. She said you stole this car. She checked the registration, and it doesn't even have your name on it." I exhaled slowly. Patricia had apparently discovered that the Mustang was still registered under my father's name. I had intended to transfer the title, but hadn't finished the paperwork yet. "Yeah," Tyler went on, growing bolder. "She said the cops are going to impound it, and then someone who actually deserves it can buy it at auction." That was when we heard the sirens. 3 patrol cars tore down our usually quiet street, lights flashing. Patricia stepped out of her house with her phone still in her hand, wearing a victorious smile. "Officers," she shouted as the first car stopped. "He's right there. That's the thief." I recognized every officer immediately: Martinez and Davidson from the day shift, followed by Thompson and the rookie, Patel. The expression on Martinez's face when he saw me was priceless. "Chief Morrison?" he said, confusion mixing with concern. "Morning, Martinez," I replied calmly. "Nice day, isn't it?" Patricia's jaw dropped. "Chief? What do you mean, Chief?" Davidson stepped in, doing his best to stay professional. "Ma'am, this is Chief Morrison. He's our boss. The chief of police for the entire city." The color drained from Patricia's face. Tyler took several steps backward, suddenly very focused on his phone. Richard, who had just arrived, looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. But the car, Patricia stammered. The registration doesn't match. The car belonged to my father, I said evenly. He passed away 6 months ago. I inherited it and haven't transferred the title yet. Would you like to see the will and death certificate? I didn't. Patricia began, her hands trembling. Martinez, I said. I want a full report taken. This woman called 911 and made a false claim about a stolen vehicle. She's also been harassing me for 3 weeks because I wouldn't let her son drive my personal car. Yes, sir, Martinez replied, pulling out his notepad. Wait, Patricia cried. I didn't know. It was a misunderstanding. You called 911 and reported a stolen vehicle, I said calmly. You claimed you verified the registration. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a deliberate false report. Thompson had activated his body camera and was now facing Tyler. Son, were you involved in this? Trying to look tough in front of his friends, Tyler made the mistake of answering. Yeah, so what? He's been a jerk since he moved in. Thinks he's better than everyone. Tyler, stop, Richard said sharply, but it was too late. My mom runs this neighborhood, Tyler continued, his voice rising. She could buy and sell you. When my dad hears about this, you're done. We'll sue the whole police department. Patel looked at me, eyes wide. I nodded, signaling him to keep recording. Within an hour, the street was packed with neighbors watching the chaos unfold. Patricia was cited for filing a false police report and misuse of emergency services. Tyler received a warning for trespassing and harassment. Everything was captured on multiple body cameras. This is outrageous, Patricia screamed as Martinez handed her the citation. I'm on the HOA board. I protect this neighborhood. Ma'am, I said quietly. You used the police as a weapon because your son wanted my car. You wasted city resources and could have pulled officers away from real emergencies. That's not protection. Richard finally spoke. Patricia, we need to leave. He turned to me, fear clear in his eyes. Chief Morrison, I'm deeply sorry. This will never happen again. As they walked away, I heard Patricia hissing about calling their lawyer, suing for humiliation, and how I'd regret this. Tyler trudged behind them, his confidence completely gone. Janet stepped up beside me as the patrol cars pulled off. Well, she said, that was something. All I wanted was a quiet Saturday. I replied. Oh, this isn't over, Janet said with a grin. Wait until the HOA hears about this. Patricia already called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. My guess? She won't be president much longer. She was right. Within days, the body camera footage was requested through public records. Someone I never found out who posted clips online, and they went viral. HOA president calls cops on police chief, racked up millions of views. Tyler's rant about buying and selling people turned into a meme. The emergency HOA meeting. Patricia tried to keep control, but the outcome was inevitable. Neighbors who had endured years of petty fines and intimidation finally spoke up. Story after story of abuse and harassment filled the room. The vote was unanimous. Patricia was removed from the HOA board immediately. As she stood to leave, she turned to the crowd. You'll regret this, she said, her voice cracking. I made this neighborhood what it is. No, Janet replied, standing. You made it a dictatorship. Now, we can finally make it a community. Patricia fled the room in tears. Richard stayed behind to apologize and mentioned they would be selling their house. The false police report resulted in a $1,000 fine and 50 hours of community service. When Patricia appeared in court, Judge Hendricks, whom I'd known for 15 years, was unimpressed by her claim that she was simply a concerned citizen. Mrs. Dalton, he said, peering over his glasses. You admitted to checking the registration, noticing a discrepancy, and immediately calling 911 without verification. You then told officers the vehicle was stolen. That is not a concern. That is malicious intent. Her attorney tried for dismissal, but the body camera footage ended that argument quickly. When the judge announced the fine and service hours, Patricia gasped, $8,000, including court costs, Judge Hendricks added. And consider yourself fortunate I'm not imposing jail time. Wasting police resources is a serious offense. As she left the courtroom, Patricia's face was frozen in humiliation. The woman who once ruled Riverside Heights through fear and entitlement had fallen undone by her own arrogance and her son's greed.